Hi, let's talk about Persuasion. When I originally was going to film this, it was dark and moody and rainy outside, which was awesome. And then by the time I actually got around to recording, the sun decided to come out because, of course, it did. It's okay. It's what I get for waiting. Kind of like Anne. Many people have discussed this movie, and I'm not really going to say anything new, but I wanted to talk about this movie because I wanted to talk about this movie. I wanted to put my 2 cents in, and I didn't want to talk the ear off of everybody that I know. I also think this modification of period pieces isn't going away anytime soon, so I feel like this is going to be prevalent no matter what. So here I am talking to the void, not really knowing or caring how it responds. This lovely ignorant bliss. Do you know what's not ignorant bliss? Knowing how good Persuasion 2020 could have been.
Hey now, don't try it.
So the first thing I want to say is my disclaimer. I'm talking to you as a general storyteller, as an audience member, an enthusiast and philanthropist of the arts, someone who works in the arts industry but doesn't necessarily have credit to their name. I also haven't read the book, but I am aware of it and the story beats and all of that, and I also haven't seen any adaptations of Persuasion other than 2020. So take everything I say as you will. Also, if I do get anything wrong in anything that I mention, feel free to let me know. We are creators building each other up to take down the big companies that don't know how to make good movies. Secondly, this is less of a disclaimer and more of a general rule, but I am not here to hate on this movie. Making a movie is incredibly difficult. It is terrifying, it is challenging, it is sucking the soul out of your life. I don't know where the term blood, sweat, and tears came from, but if it didn't come from the arts industry, I would be shocked. It is also incredibly gratifying when your work is done and you get to step back and just kind of marvel at it. Also, having worked on multiple different projects in many different facets, there are a lot of shenanigans and inhibitors that result in your product not being as good as you were hoping it would be. I have worked on a handful of projects where I've just had to take a step back and go, you know, it is what it is. What will happen will happen. In every case, there was a show, it was start to finish, and the audience enjoyed it, so that is all I can hope for. So I'm not gonna blindly hate on the people who made this project, nor am I gonna criticize professionals who have more credit to their name. If anything, I'm gonna criticize the big wigs who were calling the shots because they need to relearn the rules of the game. Okay, thesis. Persuasion was a good movie. It was just a good bad movie, or a bad good movie. I haven't decided which one is more accurate.
I said my keys.
Persuasion 2022 is if you made Jane Eyre and had Jane break the fourth wall, or Frankenstein, where Victor dumps exposition on you as he sows, creates, and inevitably runs away from his monster. It's The Grapes of Wrath told as a mockumentary, and the MCU Thor changing personalities halfway through the saga. All fine ideas in theory, just a little lackluster in execution. That's because each story has a genre, and that genre defines the story. It gives the tone and classification of a story that helps the audience settle into the world without having to explicitly lay out what they're going to get. For example, Romeo and Juliet, To All the Boys I Loved Before, and Once are all under the romance umbrella. They're all different types of romance, but you understand what you're getting in each story. 2020 Persuasion didn't do well because it was trying to be something it wasn't. A comedy. Jane Austen's books are romances, but more importantly, they're social commentaries. Her works are also comedies, parodies, and dramas, but more accurately than all of that, they're historical fiction. To say that her books are solely romantic discredits the characters, content, and plots that she cleverly uses. So when creating visual adaptations of Jane's work, it's important to understand that these are commentaries, as well as comedies, romances, dramas, what have you. The 1995 and 2005 Pride and Prejudice are both compelling adaptations because they focus in on one of two compelling parts of the book, theme and plot, while intersecting the other when necessary. 1995 focuses on the story, giving you the plot points as they come, but layer in the themes of love and family, class and reputation. 2005 gives you all of those themes and pulls in the most important parts of the story to give you in the movie. While wildly different in tone, both movies capture the essence of the story because they use both plot and theme to execute it. Persuasion just got the story beats. And not only that, they tried to make them funny. Persuasion is one of Jane's darker stories. It's a tragedy with a happy ending. Trying to write Anne as quirky instead of pensive drastically changes the outlook of the book. It would be like changing Lizzie from witty and logical to naive and vacuous. Anne is supposed to be unfulfilled, but capturing her as someone who lies face down in her bed, constantly drinking, or carrying a rabbit isn't going to show that. Showing a regretful Anne is showing her alone, not engaging in frivolous conversation. Lots of walking or drinking, and looking for ways to escape. Anne isn't satisfied with her life, but it's not entirely because of Wentworth. Moreover, letting the film settle in this chilly tone makes the lighter moments more welcoming and the end more satisfying. It forces the audience to sit with nostalgia and bitterness, the hope and the agony that life presents us. Passing off Persuasion's characters as silly or overdramatic lessen the punches the movie tries to throw because those characters aren't supposed to be jesters. They're funny, yes, but not archetypes. The humor in Persuasion is the juxtaposition. It's Anne's family being frivolous and conceited, or some of her relations being rosy-eyed or angsty. This doesn't make Anne not like other girls, but more aware and grounded compared to them. These traits of Anne and the use of humor help the audience see Anne's growth from becoming less compliant to the persuasions of others and more in tune with the beating of her own heart. If you take away the important distinction between humor and comedy, Persuasion falls apart.
Wasn't talking to you.
Yes, we get it. Fleabag is a masterpiece. Now, I love Fleabag. I really do. It's near and dear to my heart. I also love Chewing Gum and Parks and Rec and The Office and Troy and Abed. And just because Fleabag and others can famously pull off side glances and one-liners doesn't mean that every character should do that or every piece of media should use it. The fourth wall is a storytelling device. It is used by cameramen, directors, actors, and writers to help tell the story. When main characters Fleabag and Tracy use it, it is an integral part of their character. For Fleabag, it's an escape, a device used to combat the dull and disappointing parts of her life. She needs the camera to play off of because everyone else in her life, save the hot priest, can't connect with her. She's arrogant in that way and dependent on the camera to keep her tethered to the real world. Tracy uses the camera as a helping hand, a tool to navigate the new areas of her life she's now exploring. The camera serves as a break when Tracy needs to figure things out or take a moment to focus in on what's happening. It's a way of her finding herself and coming out of her shell and being more comfortable with who she is. Anne uses the camera because I see what they were trying to do, and I really they're almost there. The camera was used as Anne's escape / navigator, and seeing her use the camera in scenes and then be completely focused in on Wentworth when he's on camera, that's a great detail. It was awesome. It just fell flat. It didn't quite work in the narrative because Anne isn't a character who would use the fourth wall. If you wanted to make a Jane Austen movie with the fourth wall break, Northanger Abbey would have been a perfect idea because its theme and main character both fit that device. The fourth wall alludes to the story happening in real time, and Anne is somebody who goes about her life wishing for a new one, constantly looking at the past. It's a good foundation for breaking the fourth wall, but Anne isn't an external processor. This makes it hard for her to be frequently looking at the camera because Anne is pensive, intrinsic. She's a thinker. She's not somebody who is external in all of this. She's not loud and charming, she's quiet and charming. A majority of the book is her mulling over her life, but the fourth wall and long monologues don't quite convey that. If anything, turn those into soliloquies. Also, having Anne break out of scene to cue the audience in doesn't leave any space for the audience to come up with their own conclusions. Let the audience figure out for themselves if Anne and Wentworth will end up together, or how gaudy her family is, or how she's trying to find peace. Honestly, if anyone would break the fourth wall, it'd be her family. Taking a step back from the movie in particular and looking at the genre, fourth walls aren't really used in period pieces. In fact, most movies don't generally use the fourth wall unless it's established in the first 10 minutes that a character is going to break it. The only movie I can think of where the fourth wall wasn't established and a character did end up breaking it and it was fine was Pretty in Pink at the very end when Ducky looks at the camera before going off screen with the girl. In Community, Troy and Abed breaking the fourth wall isn't cringy or weird because it is totally in character and something they would do. Anne isn't that kind of character, nor Persuasion that kind of story to use the fourth wall as a way to explore emotions, so you can kind of see where the pieces don't fit. And again, it's sad because I could see where they were going with it and it was cool, it just didn't work.
Hey, I've seen this one, this is a classic.
Just like we can thank Fleabag for breaking the fourth wall, the norm, we can thank Bridgerton for modernizing every Regency piece we're gonna have for the next 5 years. Again, like Fleabag, I do like Bridgerton, I do, it's fun. I shamelessly watch it, and I don't love myself for that, but also, it's a fun show, I really like it. But the reason that the amalgamation of Bridgerton works is because it wasn't trying to be set in a period piece in the first place. It's set in this similar yet different Regency era, so it's separate from Regency era England, but it has associations to it. That way we can have clothes that don't check off all the right boxes or language with modern syntax. It works because at least we now know we weren't supposed to expect it. It's not based on the Regency era, simply set in that time. And that works. and it's done beautifully. The Great is another fantastic example of this amalgamation. It states in every title card that it's occasionally based on a true story, so we know that it's set in 18th century Russia without having to expect it being set in 18th century Russia. So we can have modern lies with corsets and nobody bats an eye, because we weren't given an authentic storytelling in the first place. Persuasion does neither of those things. It tries to modernize the world of Persuasion, but also trying to keep it grounded in a Regency time period. So because of this partiality, we have lines like, if you're a 5 in London, you're a 10 in Bath. Right after, we'll need your pleasant company to make amends for the many plain faces we shall have to endure in Bath. Commit to either going full Bridgerton or don't. Even then, you can work modern phrases into the story, not the story into modern phrases. You can say, if you're a Sir in London, you're a Duke in Bath. It's not great, but it works. If you want to make a modern retelling of Persuasion, do that. There are many modern retellings of classic literature, and it's fun, like Clueless for Emma, or She's the Man for Twelfth Night. There are also many YouTube series like the Lizzie Bennet Diaries and the Candle Waster creators, who help modernize retelling for the next wave of digital audiences. And the beautiful thing about Jane Austen's work is that the themes aren't set in 1800s England. They're universal. You could say a truth universally acknowledged. As creators, we have to decide whether or not to take these different opportunities. We have to decide before we even start to film what story we want to tell and how we're going to tell it. We can make a movie set in 1800s England with 1800s speech, clothing, and customs. Or we can set it in 2022. The great thing about humans is that we're funny, caring, stupid, silly, angry, fearful, or sad, no matter what time period you place us in. You can still tell a compelling story even if your characters aren't saying, I'm an empath.
Talk about the mail, please, Mac. I'm dying to talk about the mail with you all day.
Every good period piece has 2 of the 3, a rain scene, a ham scene, and funny servants. Persuasion only had 1. And that's why it's not a good movie. Putting aside the fact they couldn't decide what movie to be, the characters and plot were off, and every scene made my body cringe. Now again, I stress to you, the movie is good. I watched it twice, back to back, with multiple friends, and I enjoyed myself. There are moments where I was really engaged, moments where I was really feeling the story. Like, it was good. It just fell short of being great. A few of the characters were fun to watch, and overall, I had a good time. It was pleasing to the eye. I saw potential for the movie, which is why it was so disappointing to see it fall short of what it could have been. Because I could see how cool this movie would have been if someone or multiple people would have taken the time to sculpt the movie into what it was supposed to be. Anne and Wentworth's story could have hit home for a lot of people. Those that are still being told what to do by other people, those with unrequited love that still yearn for it, or people that are just stuck. Not picking a direction didn't convey second chances or coming to terms with your life. It was just a jumbled narrative with half retellings. Persuasion is a good movie, and I would watch it again. And I'm not saying it over and over to convince myself. Again, I did enjoy it. It's just there are other period pieces who do adaptations better. I'm not angry at the movie and I'm not condemning it in the streets, but it's not necessarily a movie I'd be recommending to people who want to get into period pieces or classic literature. Hopefully, the less than ideal feedback Netflix and other film companies have been getting will make them take more steps back during the film process to see if the story they're making is actually the story they want to tell.